Another Thursday, another hotfix, and boy, what a hotfix this is going to be. Playable demo of Season 3 with its new Descendant, new weapons and bikes, new shop items if you wanted to cosplay Bunny as any other female Descendant, and the main reason that everyone was hyped, the ultimate weapon adjustments. So in today's video we'll be taking a look at everything that the patch notes cover, looking at more details around the demo, a quick recap of the new store items, and then diving into those important weapon rebalances. And trust me, you'll want to hear about the majority of these. There's a lot to cover, especially those around the weapon side of things, so if that sounds good to you, then let's get to it. Alright then, so let's kick things off by getting the easier bits out of the way, and then we can focus on the main bulk, which is that of the weapons. Now, first up we get a bit more detail around the demo and what we can expect to see. The structure, difficulty and visual elements have been specifically made for the demo, and will differ from what you've come to expect so far. Now, progress between this demo won't be saved even when restarting or retrying, so no builds are going to be carrying over right here. Now, upon booting up, you'll be getting paid the option to be able to play as 3 characters. This is going to be Ultimate Bunny, Ultimate Freyna, or that of the brand new Descendant of Nell. Now, we'll also get access to the 2 new Ultimate weapons coming inside of Season 3 of the Eraser and the Exterminator, along with seeing the new Legion of Breach faction, Wall Crasher, and the new vehicle. Now, as for Axion itself, we've got 1 hunting ground and 1 Colossus capture zone to see, so we're not going to get the full extent of it all, which is absolutely fine. I think it's good that we get to keep some of that back for launch and be able to experience the surprise of it when Season 3 does drop. Now, they finished by going back over the rewards for the demo, as we've covered that in the last video. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but just a recap: paints, 3 million gold and 3 catalysts are going to be some of the better options and better items on offer here. Now, shop-wise, we have new bundles hitting, with the bunny skins that the socials teased making their debut appearance. And if you want to play male Descendants only, sorry, there is no love for them inside this hotfix, so there is no bunny outfit for Isomo. Now, alongside the new skins, we get a couple of new emotes, a new spawn animation, and a UI theme. And while it won't interest everyone, new paints and hair dyes are going to be making their way to the shop too, meaning that we have more access to customization. That's right, even another shade of beige to get hyped for. But in all seriousness, I do enjoy the paint side of the game. It makes for some fun combinations and outfits, so I'll be taking a look at these myself when the access is back. And now we get onto the main bulk of the patch, and that is going to be the weapon adjustments. All buffs across the board, so no sneaky nerfs to your favourites. And we're going to start off with the handgun category, and this is going to be the final masterpiece as it's had all of its modes buffed, with explosive rounds now doing 160% damage up from 50%, shock up to 145%, and poison having a puddle increase from 3% to 9%, but also the damage over time doing a 21% up from that of 7%. Now, the base attribute has also been upped nicely with 1005 to 9936, so blue cores will go nicely on this gun now, along with its weak point modifier upped from 1.5x to 2.11. Will this be enough to use? We won't know until we try it, but it does sound a little bit juicy when it comes to the paper side of things. SMGs are up next, with 2 being adjusted. That is going to be the Python and the fan favourite Thunder Cage. Now, Python got the short end of the stick, unfortunately, having a buff to its attribute damage, going from 6,669 to 7,503, and that's not a huge change, but I suppose a buff is still kind of welcome. Thunder Cage, however, got a very welcome addition, giving the gun electric attack as standard now, and at 9,176 points of damage, this can easily make the gun chunk some health bars. But it didn't end there, as the unique shockwave that the gun deals after killing an enemy also got buffed. This has gone from 200% to 400%, and I know a lot of people consider the Thunder Cage good already for what it could do when it came to that ability, but this kind of buff will make it much more viable inside that of the later game content, and where it typically fell off a little bit compared to other options. Either way, solid stuff for the SMG category. The ARs are widely considered the category that needs the most help right now, and Nexon pretty much heard you, buffing 3 of the rifles we have access to, that of the Excava, Fallen Hope, and Divine Punishment. And starting with the Excava, just like the Python, all it got was an attribute damage increase going from 9,560 to 12,249. This will make the gun a bit more potent in builds like the minigun setup that it can have, but doing that much more damage in a crit setup will also be pretty welcome. Now, the Fallen Hope, the unloved child, actually got something meaningful on paper for once, having its unique ability up so that when you shoot enemies inflicted already with poison, you will be dealing 65% more firearm attack instead of that of 30. Now, combined with the multi-hit capabilities that this gun can do, that's actually quite a nice buff to see, but it also had its attribute damage upped from 4,741 up to 12,429. Overall, I love the sound of this new Fallen Hope, but if it's enough, we'll have to wait and see. Now lastly, we also did get the Divine Punishment, and I think Nexon didn't go far enough for this weapon, as it now has double the firearm attack bonus on its Glory ability, up from 0.7% to 1.4% firearm attack per stack, and its fire attribute damage is upped from 6,906 to 9,031, and it now does also have a weak point multiplier going from 1x to 1.56x, And while I do have some rising hope for the Fallen Hope now, I still think that the ARs are just not getting the love that they deserve, so hopefully Nexon are just testing the waters with this for now, and we can expect something a little bit more down the line. Onto the LMG category, and yes, the old monster itself, the Enduring Legacy, is on this list, along with one of the more meta staples of the Albion Cavalry, which was a little bit of a surprise. Enduring got the better of the two buffs in my opinion, going a base attribute damage of 6,578 fire attack, meaning the gun can now self-proc its own burns, ready for its own unique ability to boost its firearm attack, along with boosting the builds that we've already got going for this gun. Now it's also got a welcome weak point damage multiplier going from 1x to 1.85x, so it's now worth being able to land those headshots. I will say though that the main issue with the Legacy is how its cores hold up against other options. Cores have been immensely influential as to what makes meta and what gets left behind, and having 2 precision and 1 special and 0 tactical core slots really does kind of hurt its overall viability. Either way, the patch will make the Legacy usable again, but nowhere near its prime. Now as for the Albion Cavalry, it had a base attribute damage buff going from 5,119 to 8,217, along with the change to its unique ability, giving itself more crit rate on landing a marked target, and also the splinter shots doing 39% damage instead of 32%. They are buffs for sure, but the Cavalry was pretty much commonly used with that of Serena due to the split off, similar to like how Malevolent was, and the skill damage doing most of that. So it's not really the biggest of effect changes when it comes to that, but either way, buffs are buffs. Moving swiftly on to tac rifle straight now, and we only have the one being that of the Secret Garden. It's nice and simple here. The Garden gets a boost to its weak point damage multiplier, going from 1.5x to 1.77, and I bet all 5 fans of shooting the Garden are going to be very happy that that's made it into the hotfix this week. Beam rifles are an odd bunch, with them being fine and unique, but never really being the must-have in most cases. Now, to counter this, Nexon have given the buffs to 3 of the beam rifles that we have access to. This is the Kingsguard Lance, the Clairvoyance, and the Voltia all getting buffs. Now, starting with the Lance, it got a weak point multiplier, and this is going from 1x to 1.25x, which is basically nothing. If you're aiming for weak points with the Lance, we need to have a talk. But the welcome change is the adjustment to the unique ability, and the deployed lances now doing 40.5% firearm instead of that of 14.1%. Now this makes the lance especially useful for farming an area and a more viable weapon to use in activities that you need to hold down sections. Clairvoyance got a nice chunky buff, having its chill attack buff from 2,539 to 13,362, making it a much more formidable as a weapon, but also getting a weak point multiplier too, going from a 1x to a 1.45x. Now lastly, Voltia got the most interesting one in my opinion, having its electric attack buff from 2,635 to 7,650, having a weak point multiplier added of 1.19x, and then also getting its multi-hit damage upped from 0.29 to 0.63. Now the Voltia was already a fairly reliable crit weapon, so to see it get a decent multi-hit buff means that we can run this both ways, similar to how I've done with my truly deadly arson, so we'll need to be able to mess about with that. Overall, it's pretty good and it's pretty interesting stuff. Hand cannons though, oh my days, hand cannons, expect the single target damage meta to wobble a little bit with these going through. Naz's Devotion, Perforator and Peacemaker all got buffs, most notably is their weak point modifiers, so get ready to practice your aim. Naz's has been on the back burner for a while now, just not really having a place to work, but now it's going to be interesting for Nell and other gun descendants alike. Having a base toxic attack of 19,231 added in is going to be nice to see, but the real kicker is having its weak point modifier move from 1.7x to 5.19x. This is pretty huge, especially as Nazis can reduce target defenses, making follow-up attacks hit even harder. I'm kinda liking the sound of this one. Now Perforator also got a tasty buff, having the scanner damage upped from 35% to 65%, along with its weak point modifier upped from 2.25 to 5.5x. It's starting to look like it's going to be a real powerhouse, especially in the AoE department. And then lastly, Peacemaker also got a weak point buff going from 1.2 to 4.86x, which is fine I suppose, but most players won't be shooting their Peacemaker inside of engagements, as its rapid fire unique ability will make it harder to reliably land those shots anyways. Overall, hand cannons got a lot of love in this hotfix, and so we'll have to see how they perform, especially with the modules and layouts that we do normally go for. Our penultimate category is the Scout Rifle, and another that rocks 3 weapons getting buffs: Wave of Light, Blue Beetle, and the lesser used Frost Watcher. Now, Wave of Light didn't really get enough of a buff for what I expected, with its unique effect of Lunar Halo giving 20% firearm attack buff over the original 10%, its fire attack has been buffed by roughly around about 4,000 points, and its weak point modifier has been upped from a 1.8 to a 2.32. Now it feels like it's almost where it needs to be to get considered for use, but personally I'd love to see the unique effect have a duration buff and not a firearm attack 2.1. 2 seconds is a little bit on the low side, especially as we need to reload to trigger it, so hopefully we'll see something soon for the gun. Now, Blue Beetle hilariously got a much better boost, having its attribute damage upped from 15k to 26.816, along with its weak point damage multi going from 1.5x to a staggering 3.93x, so if you've ever wanted to use the Beetle as a shooting weapon rather than just a stat stick, well, now's going to be your chance. And then lastly, Frostwatcher needed a big buff to help it out, and unfortunately is still going to be waiting. Having its shield damage upped to 22,889 and its weak point modifier upped from 1.5x to 2.81 will definitely help, but it's still kind of cumbersome to use in the most part. I do kind of find it hilarious out of the 3 that needed buffs, Blue Beetle is the one to get the most love out of the better stacks that's in the game. And that brings us to our last category, and this is going to be the snipers, and no, ATAMs didn't make the list if you're wondering. Afterglow Sword and Piercing Light really lost a lot of value after ATAMs hit the scene, so it's kind of good to see them get something. Now, however, I don't think it's enough to be able to help out much here, but hopefully I am kind of wrong. Both snipers had the weak point modifiers adjusted, with Afterglow getting a 2.76 mult, and Piercing Light getting a 2.75 mult. Not the biggest changes, but I guess it's something. Will you be moving from ATAMs for these? Probably not. Overall, a lot of fantastic changes on paper, so I'll be eager to drop back in and see how this mixes things up. To finish off, we also got a few extra notes talking about how core combining has now become drastically cheaper, which is ideal for us that don't have 38 million gold to combine our purple cores. Descendant purchase tickets can now be dismantled with ETA, and this will end after the first anniversary event. The UI and UX changes I'll pop up on the screen for you, but the main item was the photo mode having default stickers now for anyone that enjoys that feature. And then as for the bug fixes, there's a bunch to cover, so I'll just mostly pop them up on the screen for you to check out at your own whim. But there's nothing really drastic to my knowledge, namely a fix to backdraft for Blair not showing 5 flame zones from the previous 3 when it's equipped, so that's pretty much now sorted correctly. We also have a fix for selling multiple blueprints with ETA for the progress only counting as 1, regardless of how many were done at the same time. I will give special mention to a fix that I was never expecting to ever read, of Glay and Ultimate Glay equipping the Summer Paradise body skin, causing changes in chest size. So that's a fun one, I suppose. Description text for the Descendant purchase ticket selection box now shows Haley as one of the exclusions. I can't say I've checked if this was just a text thing, or if they've just added it to the list, but it is a thing once that game pops back online. And the last I want to talk about is Malevolent in the Lab hitting a Colossus would visually display damage animations on all parts, unlike how it actually behaves inside of one of those Colossus fights. And with that, it pretty much wraps up on the latest hotfix and patch notes. It's so refreshing to see this many buffs go in all at once, and it has me itching to dive back in and try them all out. That being said, it's so strange that Hammer and Anvil, possibly one of the least loved guns in the game right now, didn't even get a slight adjustment. Heck, I'd have even accepted it getting a nice weak point mult, rewarding accuracy or its alt fire, and pivoting to being Nell's shotgun of choice, but not even that got a single % of increase is pretty criminal in my mind. Now maybe H&A is really just the J of the weapon world in TFD, maybe, who knows. And so this is a section I want to hear from you. What are your current thoughts on the hotfix? Think it's a good or a bad move for all of these weapons? And then lastly, which of these weapons should we look at first on the channel for new builds? Let me know all that and more down below. Massive thank you for making your way to the end of the video. As I always say, keep yourself safe, keep yourselves well, and I'll see you all on the next video.